All right, the next step into solving linear equations is multi-step equations. So the last two videos we've talked about two-step equations, which when we get to a two-step equation, we would undo the addition or subtraction to undo the constant, or we would, and then we would undo the multiplication or division to undo the coefficient of the variable, okay? Now we're in multi-step. So when we're in multi-step, we have different steps to take in order to solve. So the first step we're going to take is to distribute. So when we distribute, we're looking for parentheses here. We're looking for parentheses. And remember, when we look for those parentheses, we're going to distribute. And when we distribute, we're multiplying. Okay. The next step is to combine. If we remember from that short 5-minute video, combining, we're looking for everyone that's on the same team, everyone with the same jersey, and adding those together. Okay. And then we're solve. So when we solve, this is your railroad tracks, or you're getting X by itself. Okay. So these examples right here kind of show you what happens if you have to skip a step. So this step one, right, or this number one right here, we have 3a minus 2. So we see the parentheses, and every time we see parentheses, we're going to have to distribute. So we have 3 times a, which gets us 3a, and then 3 times negative 2, which gets us a negative 6. There are no terms to combine here. So if we're looking at this 3a minus 6, both of those are in the simplest term, and then equals negative 9. Negative 9 is on the other equals side by itself, so there's nothing to combine. Now we're solving, okay? This is when you do your railroad tracks, do the opposite sign, and then you divide by that coefficient. A gets you negative 1. So some misconceptions that these two are like terms right here. Yes, they are, and you can eventually combine them, but because they live on opposite sides of the equation sign, you can't necessarily combine them right now because they're on opposite sides of the equation. When you combine them is when you're actually on your step of solving, so you do the opposite sign. Number 2 is different because step 1, there are no parentheses, so we do not have to distribute. We're just looking at combining because we have two terms with the variable x in it. So those are on the same team. They're wearing the same jersey, so we have to combine them. All right, this is one I kind of wanted to go over because this has all 3 steps. So we see this parenthesis right here, and when we see that parentheses, we know we have to distribute, which is step 1. Okay, but notice how there's a negative sign in front of the parentheses. Anytime there's a negative sign, right, and no number right here in front of the parentheses, we have to understand that there is a imaginary 1 right there. Okay, so there's a negative, but there's a negative 1. And so you're distributing a negative 1. So that's why negative 1 times 8 gets us a negative 8. And negative 1 times negative m gets us a positive m. Now we're going to combine our like terms. So we have 8m and positive 1m, which gets us 9m. And then this negative 8 just gets brought down, equals to 28. We're going to add 8 to both sides. We're left with 9m equals 36. Divide by our coefficient. M equals 4. All right. So I'm going to do this example over here. So like I said, step one, you're looking for parentheses. So I see a set of parentheses here, so I'm going to distribute. So I have 2 times s, which is 2s, 2 times a positive 3, which is a positive 6. And then because I'm done distributing, I'm just going to bring everything else down. So minus 5s equals 30. All right. Now that I'm done distributing, I'm going to go right into step 2, which is combining my like terms. So I can see that I have a 2s here, and then I have a negative 5s here. Do not forget to take the signs, okay? Always take the sign in front of it. That literally makes or break the whole answer. So when we add those together, we get a negative 3s. And like I said, anything that does not get combined in our second step just gets brought down. So positive 6 equals 30. All right. Now we're in so this was step 1, this is step 2. Step 3 is to solve. Okay, so we have negative 3s plus 6 equals 30. We know we're ready to solve because all of our s's are combined together and all of our constants are combined together on one side. So we draw our railroad tracks. And step 1 of solving is undo the addition or subtraction. So right now it's adding 6. So in order to undo that, I do subtract 6. I'm left with negative 3s equals 30 minus 6 is 24. And then I divide by that negative 3 because second step of solving is to undo the multiplication or division or undo that coefficient. So when I divide by a negative 3, I get s equals negative 8. All right, this one right here. All right, so I see parentheses. So step 1, I'm going to have to distribute. But here's the kicker. I'm distributing by a negative 3. Not just a 3, but a negative 3. Okay, always use the sign in front of it. So I have a negative 3 times c, which is a negative 3c, and a negative 3 times 1, which is a negative 3. Everything else that I do not use while I'm in my distributing step gets brought down. So I have a c in front of that negative 3c equal to 17. Do not forget to bring this c down. Step 2, remember, is to combine. So I'm looking for terms that are alike. And we have this c and we have this negative 3c. Again, please don't forget the sign because the sign tells us how many we have left over, okay? Or helps us determine how much we have left over. Okay, so when we combine those, c and a negative 3c, we get a negative 2c, and then everything else gets brought back down. Now we solve. So we're going to add 3 to both sides because step 1 is undo the addition or subtraction. So 17 plus 3 is 20. Bring down everything I didn't use. Then I divide by that coefficient because it's multiplying to the c. I got to undo that multiplication. So 20 divided by negative 2 gets us a negative 10c. All right. You're going to try number 6, okay? But notice how we have 2 sets of parentheses. Okay, 2 sets of parentheses means we're going to distribute twice. And when you distribute on this last one, don't forget to take the negative 5 when you distribute. You will get the answer on the copy of notes. Bye, guys.